I am pleased to introduce Magosia and her team speaking on the evolution of Mars colony on the example of design base per 1,000 inhabitants, featuring the Innspace team.
I'm pleased to welcome you from the capital of Poland. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself, of course. My name is Małgorzata and I'm a biomedical engineering and I'm finishing law school. Today I represent the Innspace team and I'm going to talk about the evolution of Mars colony and the example of design based per 1,000 inhabitants. Okay, let's start. The people you can see now, in the photo are members of the Innspace team. We are a group of 14 young people of various faculties from different cities in Poland who have been involved in space projects for several years. We have been working together since 2018. We won ESA Grand Prix in the first edition Student Aerospace Challenge for the aircraft cabin design suborbital. Design of our Idea-City base was selected as one of the 10 best, whose author will present themselves during the final taking place during the Mars Society Convention in October 2019. In my talk, I will concentrate on 4 major stages of base development on Mars. We assume that the first stage of Mars colonization is short-term missions. In the second stage, we have 50 permanent inhabitants, and the first stage, we designed the first city. Finally, in the last stage, we discussed the future development of the colony. We also divided our publication into 2 parts, the technical part and the social and organizational part. In the technical part, I will introduce you to issues such architecture, transport, and agriculture. And the next part, I will discuss the political system, law, and society. The aim of the paper is to present the concept of creating a self-sufficient Martian base for 1,000 people, together with an analysis of its evolution from the first astronauts through subsequent stages, and to present the most important function leading the financial independence. Okay, the second stage relates to our base design called Dome, which received an award in the first colony on Mars competition. We have developed a place where we use shape memory materials. Thanks to this, we will use the significant daily temperature amplitude on Mars. The next, Idea-City, is a project of a self-sufficient Martian colony for 1,000 people. The people of the Martian city took fifth place in the Mars Colony Prize 2019 final. The design uses the concept of Idea-City. Let's move on to our latest inspiration. The future development of the colony is based on our latest project on a Martian state with 1 million inhabitants. The concept prepared by the team is a federation of several city-states, where the main point is the capital called Ideapolis. It developed in 3 phases, which is easily noticeable in its structure divided into 3 circles. Okay, you should consider in the more details. We will start with architecture. In the beginning, we use ready-made habitants imported from Earth. They provide astronauts with adequate protection. 3D printing will be used to print the outer protective layer of regolith, incorporating a pressurized inflatable to shelter astronauts. The use of local materials will significantly reduce costs, and a thick layer will be efficient against micrometeoroid. Sorry, it's a part where micrometeoroids and space radiation. Okay. And in the second stage, we design a base in which access to sunlight becomes an important element. This is important for maintaining the mental health of inhabitants. There is a possibility to use aerogels, ETFE membranes of Farrand's daylighting system for transportation of concentration sunlight via optical fibers to the emitters inside. Using 3D printing technology, we have to decrease the cost of building a base by using in situ materials. The base of Idea City, this is Idea City, is built on a grid of hexagons with the city center as the main point. Due to the radiation on the planet, the city is mostly located underground, which provides natural protection. The paved roads will the width about 5 meters and arranged on the outline of the hexagon in radiation to its interior. The most important function of them is to connect buildings with a continuous flow of materials. Communication for people and smaller vehicles are available in underground corridors connecting all buildings. It helps to avoid additional difficulties moving around the base. If there is a need to reach some building with larger cargo, rovers can be used in reaching every building impossible by keeping the minimum distance between buildings. The transport of resources takes place by rain, and some of them, such as water or air, is transported via pipelines. The direction of further expansions is the creation of an independent city-state. One should also take into account the need to adapt to the human body to the conditions prevailing there. One of the steps is also to develop the base in orbit, which would be an intermediate stop and significantly facilities, for example, space mining. A further direction of development may attempt to terraform Mars, maybe in the future. Transport, maybe. Transport during the first mission will be mainly carried out by rovers. Creating additional infrastructure only makes sense in the event of further expansion, which is why we have already assumed additional opportunities in the project of a city for 1,000 people. Idea City consists of elements above ground and underground. The paved roads are arranged on the outline of the hexagon and radiate to its interior and connect buildings with a connections flow of materials. Of course, it's Idea City, you can see. For the other places, transport takes place on a normal surface using rovers, and reaching every building is possible by keeping the minimum distance between them. Further development may include hyperloop or suborbital flights in the even more distant future. Agriculture. During the first mission, astronauts will mainly eat ready-made meals taken from Earth, because a huge amount of space is needed to grow the right amount of food. However, this is a good time to test hydroponic and aeroponic crops on Mars. The next stage, the base for 50 people, is the moment when some of the food may already come from crops on Mars, but it should still be taken into account that filtration and supplement from Earth will be necessary still. 1,000 inhabitants on the red planet is the moment when you can start considering self-sufficiency. We will now be able to produce enough food to be independent of supplies from Earth. To enable food production, our Idea City base needs to create suitable conditions in a glass house and plant food management. Our project provides a build-up of glass house, total 20 hectares, and food storage, total 7 hectares. We recommend for city a plant-based diet. To fulfill all the health requirements, the diet is supplied also by protein from insect, dietary fiber, vitamins, and minerals from algae. The rest of human demands is supplemented by processed food and food additives. In our opinion, breeding meat can be considered only further stages of colony development. Okay, but designing the base is not enough. We cannot forget that if we are to send people to Mars, then we must also develop a political system for the base. The first short-term missions are carried out on the principles prevailing at the International Space Station. The area, the area of the base formed on Mars is international territory and belongs to the group of founders who decide what the development direction should look like. Astronauts are subject to military rigor. The mission is chaired by the commander. Okay. In the next step, the base remains the property of earthly states, but the first administration and leader appear. They gain little decision-making competence, primarily in current affairs. Astronauts are starting to influence their place of residence, not just following orders from Earth. The first election of the leader who still has to comply with 10th law is also taking place on Mars. In Idea City is a base that has become independent of the Earth. It's still primarily a research unit, but is no longer alive with any terrestrial countries. The United Nations continues its advisory policy toward Mars. Earth representatives decide, among others, the election of some member of the Council. The system in the base was determined based on a previous survey. There is technocracy on Mars and a qualified decision-making body, Base Council governs. Board members should be chosen based on their qualifications. First of all, the Council sets long-term goals such as Mars research, base security and research and development direction, but also foreign policy, the economy, in particular communication, trade with Earth and law. Inhabitants have an impact on family and labor policies, as well as a country construction issues. Sorry. In the future, the base will become an independent democratic state. As a state, Mars will be able to join the United Nations and accede to many international treaties. Mars and Earth will be able to exchange experience virtually on equal terms. Okay. Legal regulation, firstly, will be based on the currently existing international space law, which will be adapted to the needs of Mars explorations. Also, rules that have worked well at the International Space Station will be applied. For the base for 50 inhabitants, members of the United Nations will adopt new legal regulation adapted to life on Mars, of course. There will be a record that this place belongs not only to all humanity, but above all to the inhabitants of Mars and cannot be exploited by airplanes. To systemize life, residents will be able to create their international status. In Idea City, all properties are property of the base. Inhabitants only use the flag. As an independent entity, Idea City can create its laws. Work and patents belonging to the inhabitants of Mars can be registered and protected also on Earth, of course. The extracted resources are the property of Idea City and can be traded with Earth. Sorry. There is also an extensive tourist law regulation, the travel of Earth tourists. Okay, in the future, in the case of the state, martial law has been liberalized. Human rights occupy an important place in Mars legal system. As an independent state, Mars adopt law without the help of airplanes. It also has its constitution, which is the most important act. Mars is actively building international relations, and it is a part to many international treaties. In society, initially missions members have astronaut status, of course with various specializations. First of all, engineers and scientists are needed, like geologists. They collect payment on Earth, and their work time is short term. After returning to Earth, like the current astronauts, they primarily spread knowledge among other science and have an impact on the education of new mission members. In the next stage, in the base, can live people only with an appropriate education. In addition to astronauts, geologists, and engineers, the base had been supplemented with specialists in medicine, biology, genetics, chemistry, mechanics, and robotics. In addition to treating residents, doctors are also responsible for research into new disease. Programmers and electronics will also be needed. Psychologists will watch over the well-being of residents. Because the permanent inhabitants of Mars will have everything secure on the spot and the money will not function in the base, the salary for the work will be secure their families on Earth. The work is carried out for life. Besides, Martians will be highly insured against accidents. In Idea City, on Earth, there is a large variety of professions. Nevertheless, this choice is still limited. Each inhabitant contributes with his work to maintaining order and security, as well as to development of the base. The work week is very similar to that on Earth, of course, as labor policy has been liberalized. It has been reduced to sorry, 45 hours per week. Each resident has enough free time in which they can also raise their qualifications. In the final stage, the work system will be similar to the one person on Earth. Everyone will have the freedom to choose their profession. There will also be a problem of employment. The work will be fully paid. Parliament will establish labor law and occupational safety and health regulations. Martian companies will no longer belong only to the state. Private entrepreneurs will appear. Okay. I would like to summarize now. By planning all stages of Mars colonization, we will be able to plan the cost and effective exploration of Mars. Moreover, planning the political system and the law is essential to maintaining the safety of the inhabitants. That is why our team in its project focuses on discussing the earlier stages as well as the goal to which we are striving in the future. It is also important for us that our projects are created by members with a different experience, 14 people. So that's all. In the end, thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. We have a few minutes for questions. The first one, your plan shows a garbage dump, which implies an open loop material system. A closed loop system that harvests resources from waste would reduce outside resource needs, which will be costly. Do you see any obstacles to implementing a closed loop system so that a garbage dump would not be necessary?
Okay, this is not my domain, so maybe this is a complex subject. More information can be found in the paper, but if you can, the answer you can send us an email. We will write back immediately. I'm a future lawyer, so maybe it's not my domain. Sorry for that.
All right. Next question. You suggest many surface-based installations. Have you considered any concept for protection from the high radiation levels?
Okay, the same problem, the technical problem. So maybe my friends can answer their questions. You can
hear me?
Oh, maybe. I see you, Beata, Magda, so maybe.
Hi, I'm Justine and I'm a leader of our group. So can you please tell once again this question and I will try to answer.
You suggest many surface-based installations. Have you considered any concept for protection from the high radiation levels?
Yeah, it wasn't so visible, but our city is mostly set underground. So these are only some kind of domes who are just for protection of our inhabitants. So we would like to show you how it looks like. But if someone is curious, I suggest to read our paper from this Mars Society Convention, but last year about architecture, because there is like a huge paper about architecture of our city, or we of course will tell a little bit more about it in this paper after this conference. But yeah, it is mostly underground city. So that's why it should be safe for inhabitants, because we have like a dozen of meters of some layers of the ground, under the ground.
Okay, next question. How long do you think it will take for Mars to become autonomous from Earth? What kind of... Well, go ahead and answer that, and then the second part I'll read.
I think that's a great question. We asked ourselves a lot of times, creating this project of Idea City for last year's competition, because we think that it's not so quick to build autonomous city on Mars, because if you need to consider a lot of things, not only like food and water, but also some kind of industry, because we need to produce everything we need, and it's not so easy when we have just limited number of inhabitants. So we think that it's a longer time than shorter. We can tell how long, but I think that we need some time and to do it.
Okay. And then the second part of that question, what kind of economy will Mars have? And another question actually is close to that. I believe it's economics related. How is your project funded?
Okay, Gosia, do you want to answer it, or I should try?
You should try.
Okay. So if it's about like economy, so we believe that if that depends which stage of our colony we want to consider, but if we tell about this autonomous city, I think that we should treat Mars like a partner. So we should be able to have some like trade exchange with Earth. Of course, we need a lot of time to be independent from the Earth. So that's why it demands like, I think, hundreds of years than just a dozen. So that's the answer for the first question. But this is one of the question we answer in our paper from last year convention as well, in the one about society. So I encourage to read it. And I don't remember the second part, how it was funded. Yeah, we think that this is a huge task to do, to create such a big colony on Mars. So I think we should consider it as a job for our whole planet, because any country is able to do it by itself. So we need to treat it like our common goal to just colonize the Mars. So yeah, I think that we should create some kinds of common institution who has funds and is responsible for doing that. But it is the plan. This is the plan for a lot of years, I guess. So that's all.
I'm going to just read this question and you take it in whichever direction you want.
Okay.
How is your project funded, and how do you plan to fund further tests?
Okay. Gosia showed just a few of our concepts, so I don't know which one is this question about, but like Mars is one of our favorite subjects, and we create some different projects. So some of them are more like for far away future, and some of them are pretty real. But now this is just a concept. We work on some kind of work to do some prototype, but I think we need a lot of time, because for now we just try to find the best idea for it.
All right. Next question. Again, here you go. What happens if someone or several someones want to found a new major religion on Mars?
That's 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 one of the, again, difficult question, because gosh, I can hear you. So because when we start to think about this project, this Idea City project, we find out that it's not a problem of a technology, because we can create technology almost perfect. It's always about the time and the cost. But if we have, a lot of money and a lot of time, we can create almost perfect technology. But the biggest problem are people, and there's no chance to change it. That the biggest problem in such a colony for 1,000 inhabitants is this 1,000 inhabitants. So yeah, I think that not only religion, but the whole organizational, political issues will be the biggest problem. So that's why I think that we should start to think about it here on Earth, even now when we don't have any colony on Mars, any base on Mars, because it's not so easy to find the perfect solution. So that was the most difficult issue for us when we created this project. And I still think that we don't have perfect solution, but this is the one we can start to discuss with others. So I think that we need more genius people to find out how to do it properly.
All right. Well, you did a great job with that. So
Thank you.
Go out. This will be your last question.
Okay.
What will happen to culture on Mars if a dark age occurs and Earth is forgotten?
Okay, that's a tricky question. I think that we need a lot of year, long time to be fully independent from Earth. So if something will happen to Earth, I don't think we can survive on Mars, or it will be very extremely difficult. But if we consider that we are independent, so it's hundreds of years. So I assume that we have that on Mars we have our own culture there. So yeah, I would answer like that.
Well, that was a great response to, yes, an interesting question. We are out of time now, but I want to thank you, Jasna, and your team for taking, it's probably the middle of the night over there, isn't it? Or
yeah, there's the midnight here.
So thank you again, and you have the Innspace team Gmail email address there. I'm sure
exactly. We encourage everyone to reach us with any question.
All right. Well, we'll hopefully see you again in some other capacity.